Jai Jirendra, everyone. Thank you for joining this eighth day Digambar pollution session in English. Jaina is blessed that we do have Manish Bhai, who is teaching us very well in terms of simplified Jainism in using this universal law. So I would like to welcome Manish Bhai on the eighth day of our English Pravachan Sreni, and still we do have 2 more days for the same. Thank you. Welcome, Manish Bhai.
Jai Shri. Thank you. Namo Arihantadam, Namo Siddhadam, Namo Hairiyadam, Namo Avachayadam, Namo No Sarvasabhi. Yesu Panch Namo Yaru, Savva Pava Papanasano, Mangaladam Chasatvisan, Padamam Havailu. Khame mi Savva Jivo, Savve Jiva Kamantime, Mukti me Savva Bhuvesu, Eram Macham Nakinu. Mangalam Bhagavan Viro, Mangalam Gautama Prabhu, Mangalam Kundadyo, Jaina Dharmosti Mangalam, Arihanta Mangalam Nityam, Siddha Jagati Mangalam, Mangalam Kundadyo, Jaina Dharmosti Mangalam, Sarva Mangala Mangalyam, Sarva Kalyana Karakam, Pradhanam Sarva Dharmanam, Jainam Jaitu Shasanam, Jainam Jaitu Shasanam. Jainam Jaitu Shasanam. Jai Jinendra, friends. The eighth day of the pollution. We are studying the universal law, which is the universal operating system, applicable to all. It applies to all of us. It has been defined by the Tirthankars, but it is a universal truth. It applies to all of us. We're all subject to the universal law. So if we live our lives in accordance with the universal law, we shall all gain from it. We talked about the earlier aspects, like I receive what I give, what I wish for others comes back to me. I am the soul. This body is merely a role that has been given to you. And usually you get the role that you'd hankered after. You see a lot of action movies, you find that you're reborn in an era where there's constant violence and action going on. Because that's what you wanted to be. So as I said earlier, be careful of what you wish for, because it may not be what you want. And if it comes true, you'll be in big trouble. So be careful what you wish for. We began discussing yesterday the 12 bhavanas, the 12 contemplations. We discussed the first one yesterday, called Anitya Bhavana, or impermanence. We all know that everything, every worldly object, every worldly person, every person you meet in this world, the meeting is short term. It is limited. It is transient. Nothing is permanent in this world, not even your body. Not your parents, not your relatives, not your family members. Only your soul is permanent. So focus on the soul. Give up your all-consuming focus on all those things which are non-self, non-soul. Focus on the self. Is the only thing that matters. The second bhavana, which we study right now, is the Asharan bhavana. Asharan means there is no shelter. No shelter in this world other than your soul. Nothing. No temple, no Tirthakshetra. There is no safe haven on earth. Because when you die, you die. There's nothing can save you. You could be the most powerful person on earth. You could be the richest man, the most powerful man. But when you die, that's it. You leave it all behind. No one has taken it with him. We've seen Mr. Ambani die. We've seen many other rich and powerful people die. We've seen the greatest of film stars, people like Dilip Kumar, they passed away. He's left all his property here. He's left all his fans behind. The greatest filmmaker of all time, Raj Kapoor, he died. He didn't carry RK Studios with him. He left it behind. No one carries anything with them. It's all left here. The only things you carry are your karmas, your thoughts, your emotions, the karmic bondage you have incurred. That's all you will carry. So be careful with those. The Ashran Bhavna, as explained in a beautiful book called Samyak Darshan Ki Vidhi by C.A. Jayesh Mohanlal Sheth. Jayesh Bhai is my guru, and he is very focused on his own soul. And whatever he's written at either my request. This book was written at my request. Other things have been written at my friend Shailesh Bhai's request, at someone else's request. On his own, he likes to not write anything. But he's written these things to help us understand. And he's simply noting down and compiling what the Tirthankars have taught, based on the Agams, based on the original teachings of the Tirthankars. Now, what are the Agams? The Agams are the original teachings, original words of the Tirthankars, which he gave in the Samusharan, and later on were recorded by the most learned acharyas of our times. They have been re-recorded and represented by giant scholars like Acharya Kundabin, Acharya Joindu, Acharya Pujyapad, Acharya Samant Bhadra. All these giants have represented the teachings of Bhagwan Mahavir Swami. And the origin goes to every single Tirthankar, right from Bhagwan Adinath to Bhagwan Mahavir Swami. All Tirthankars have taught us the same lessons, the same message. And that message has been compiled together, put together as very briefly as a universal law. So the universal law is nothing but the distilled wisdom of the Tirthankars. It is there for our own benefit. If we take the benefit, we can attain Samyak Darshan and book our tickets for moksha. If we don't take this benefit, then we're already in samsara, already living in misery and unhappiness. No change, status quo. People who say that I'm happy in life, I don't need anything else, should ask themselves this question very honestly. Are you truly happy? Are you completely happy? Are you constantly happy? And do you need external factors to bring you happiness? Or are you happy by yourself? Or do you need to have a drink to be happy? Do you need to consume narcotics to be happy? Do you need to see a movie on television, a movie to be happy? Do you need to read a book to be happy? Do you need to go for a swim to be happy? Or are you happy by yourself? Just by the fact of your existence. The Tirthankars taught about a certain happiness which is permanent, endless, avyabad, uninterrupted. And that happiness comes from within. It is not dependent on any other external factor. All the happinesses that we talk about, worldly happiness, going to a beautiful place, sightseeing, traveling abroad, is that a source of happiness? Or is that a source of binding more karmas? Believe me, when you go abroad and you see a beautiful grassy field and you're like, I wish I could live here. Well, you just might. You might be reborn as a blade of grass in that field. You see a beautiful pond. You're like, wow. You go abroad, you go to America, you go to Europe, you go in a canoe, you do boating, and you see a body of water. You say, this is so glorious, it's so beautiful. What a gorgeous beach. You might be born on the beach as a speck of sand, as a tiny living being. You might be born on that body of water, as a droplet of water, as a tiny living being inside the water? Do you wish to perpetuate your existence? You like something, you make the booking. I remember first time I went to America, I saw Manhattan, and I was like, I wish I could live here. This is beautiful, gorgeous brownstone building. It's on the 5th Avenue. I was like, why? Wow, I wish I could live here. It is so foolish because I've made a booking. In some incarnation and some birth, I will be born there. Of course, I do my Mitshami Dukram now. 10 years later, 15 years later, when I'm wiser. But at least older. But when you make these bookings, you're responsible. You have added to your own burden of misery. Sansar, worldly existence, will never give you happiness. For 1 gram of happiness, you get 1,000 tons of sorrow. 1 gram of happiness equals 1,000 tons of sorrow, misery, grief. This is the equation. Why then would you want worldly existence? You look at all the rich and powerful people in this world. Did they not grow old? Did they not die? Did they not suffer from illness? Did they not suffer from reverses? At the time when your paap is arising, when your paap is arisen, nothing can save you. Not your parents, not your siblings, not your spouse, not your family. Nothing and no one can save you. When there is an uday of your paap, when your paap are rising, when they are coming to fruition, nothing can save you from their consequences. Even your money cannot save. We know so many people who've fallen sick, seriously sick with cancer or other diseases. They may have all the money in the world, but they cannot be saved. I remember Mrs. Neetaben Ambani, her father, he fell sick, and they bought an entire hospital called the Harkishan Das Hospital, now known as the Harkishan Das Reliance Hospital. And one entire wing was dedicated to his care. They couldn't save him because you can't. Mr. Dhirubhai Ambani, there's so many rich and powerful people. Has anyone beaten death? The most powerful dictators, the most powerful kings, emperors, merchant princes. Has anyone beaten death? Has anyone beaten disease, old age? Yesterday I saw an interview of Dev Anand, film star. Yesterday was, I think, his 100th birth anniversary. We've seen him in how handsome he looked in 1956 in Guide. And then I saw an interview of 1996 where he was looking old and decaying. He was almost senile. Because old age you cannot escape old age. Even the greatest plastic surgeons cannot help you escape old age. And the greatest doctors in the world cannot help you escape death. This world is not a shelter. If you think this is a shelter, you are deluded. No one can take away your sorrow. No one. No one can take away your problems. You know, this attachment that we feel for all our life of family members, your parents, your loved ones, your friends, your family, your children, your spouse, they cannot take away your sorrow. They cannot grant you even one moment, even 1 nanosecond of life. They cannot do anything. When you're about to die, when your lifespan is coming to an end, no one can save you. All the king's horses, all the king's men could not put Humpty Dumpty together again. When your lifespan is gone, you go. You're not coming back. That's it. No one can save you. So this whole idea that I live for my family, I live for them and I cannot live without them. You will lose them one day. They're not a shelter. No matter how much you want to stay with them, death will drive you out. One should, I'm not asking you to give up your duty towards your family and your friends, but don't bind yourself with them. Don't create bonds of karma, because we have such strong bonds of karma. We keep taking births again and again. It's causing us even more misery, even more misery. When we know that a person is helpless in the face of death, when we know that a person is helpless in the face of karmic fruition, then why do we think that this world can offer any kind of shelter? There's so many people who may think that I'm the greatest, I'm the strongest, I'm the most powerful, I'm the greatest of all time, I'm a goat. But can they ever conquer death? We all know of the story of Bharat Chakravarti, but the firstborn son of Bhagwan Adinath, the first Tirthankar of this era. Bhagwan Adinath's son Bharat Chakravarti, after whom this country was named India. Sorry, Bharat, I'm sorry. This country was named Bharat after Bharat Chakravarti, who was the first universal emperor, the Chakravarti of this era, the greatest of all, the greatest king. And he went, there is this, as per Jain geography, this world is centered around the Meru Parvat, Mount Meru. We live on Jambudweep Island, and at the epicenter of this island is Mount Meru. So Bharat Chakravarti climbs on top of Mount Meru, that on the highest peak, that I will write my name here because I'm the greatest ruler of all time. He goes on that peak and he realizes, hello, there have been so many Chakravartis in the endless eons of time that there is no place left. Mind you, lakhs of kilometers, and there's no place left. Each of them is overrun by names written by various Chakravartis which have come in various eras. He realized the transience of being a Chakravarti. It's not important. And he focused on dharma, on the right paths. Because even being a Chakravarti will not guarantee you permanence. Therefore, there is no shelter in this world. Therefore, don't waste your time here. Do your duties, fulfill all your duties and move on. And do your duties in a detached manner, not getting attached to the results. As they say in the Bhagavad Gita, karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. The greatest doctors, the greatest surgeons, the greatest masters of tantra and mantra, they cannot save you from death. If a person, even longevity, how long will it take you? How far will it take you? I've read about this island in Japan where they are vegetarian and they live for 100 years. Great, terrific. You live for 100 years. And then what? You still die, right? You may grow to be 105 years old, 106 years old, 110 years old, 120 years old. You die after that, right? No one is immortal. Only the soul is immortal, not this body. But there is no shelter on this earth. When we look at herds of deer, and they are hunted by, lions and tigers. When a lion pounces on one deer, it may be part of a herd of 100 deers, but the other deer cannot help that particular deer. That's going to die. If the lion catches hold of it, it's going to die. All the other 100 deer cannot help that one deer. It has no shelter. Even the greatest of kings, even Indra in heaven, he has a lifespan. It's a long lifespan, mind you, but it's a lifespan. When the lifespan ends, the Indra dies. And unless he has taken dharma, unless he has samyak darshan, he will be reborn in Narak, in hell. So after enjoying all the pleasures of Swarga, and being the Indra, being the ruler of Swarga, he's reborn in hell. Can you imagine that? Because there is no Sharan on earth. There are only two permanent abodes for the soul. One is moksha and the other is nigona. There are only, in our Namokar mantra, we say that there are 4 shelters in this world. Which are those 4 shelters? Arihante sarnam pavajjami, siddhe sarnam pavajjami, sahu sarnam pavajjami, kevli pannattam dhammam sarnam pavajjami. So there are only 4 shelters on earth. Arihant Bhagwan, the Tirthankars, who have taught us the true paths, who have taught us this universal law. Siddha Bhagwan, the perfected, liberated beings. They are the ones who are residing in moksha, enjoying absolute, uninterrupted bliss of a variety, of a quality that we cannot experience unless we become siddhas ourselves. And the path is open for all of us. Get the visa, that is samyak darshan, and take the trip, that is moksha. The third shelter is sadhus. All those sadhus who are walking on the path of Tirthankars are a shelter for us. And the Kevali Pandittam Dhammam Sarnam Pavachami, the Kevali Pranit Dharma, the Dharma taught by the Kevali Bhagwans, by the omniscience, that Dharma, Jaina Dharma, the universal Dharma, that Dharma is our shelter. Only 4 shelters: Arihant, Siddh, Achar, Upadhyay, Sadhu. So Arihant is first shelter, Siddha is the second shelter, Achar, Upadhyay, Sadhu, they are the third shelter. And the Dharma taught by the Tirthankars, by the Arihantas, is the 4th shelter. Only 4 shelters. And all 4 shelters, what are they telling us? What is their message? They're saying, only your soul, only your Shuddhatma is your true shelter. Nothing else, no one else. Only your Shuddhatma is your true shelter. So therefore, what are we waiting for? When even the Tirthankars have said that I am not your Sharan, only your Shuddhatma is your Sharan. There is a beautiful text called Tachasaro, Tattvasar. It's a 10th century Prakrit text. And there they talk about Swagat and Pargat. And said all of these, the Panch Parmeshti, the great, profound, divine Panch Parmeshti, even the Panch Parmeshti is Pargat. They are the other. What is a Swagat? Only my soul. I have to focus on my soul. I have to keep in mind the teachings of the Panch Parmeshti. I have to follow in their footsteps. I have to practice what they have taught me. But I have to do it myself. They can't do it for me. I have to do it for myself. There is no magic fix. You've got to do it for yourself. That's why be careful of all these tantrics and babas and ojas who say that they'll fix all your problems. They can't. My problems are due to my karmas. Therefore, I have to work with my karmas, on my karmas. There is no opponent in this world. There is no enemy. It's just between two people, myself and my karmas. No third person is anywhere involved. I have to tackle my karmas, and through sorry, never again, thank you, welcome, I shed my karmas. When I walk on the path of non-violence, I do not bind more karmas. And when I attain Samyak Darshan, that is when I really begin progressing on the path of liberation. So, if you think that your money or your wealth or your savings can help you in your old age, you're mistaken. It's all on your karma. If there is a fruition of pap karmas, your investments will collapse. There could be a war. There could be some kind of shortage, some kind of ecological, environmental disaster. There could be a tsunami that could wipe out all your savings. It's only your punya and pap that determine how well you will live on this earth. So, stop focusing on things you cannot control and focus on that which you can control, which is your own soul's dispositions, your bhav, your emotions. So from the Vyavhar point of view, you have four Sharanas: the Arihant, the Siddh, the Sadhu. Sadhu includes Achar, Upadhyay and Sadhu, and Panyasangani. And the Dharma, the Kevi Pranit Dharma, the Jaina Dharma. But from the Nishchay point of view, it's only a soul that is a shelter. Because they are different from you, right? The Panch Parmeshti, they're not you, you're not them. You are an individual soul. And therefore, you are responsible for all your acts of mind, speech, and body. You are responsible, not anyone else. So, we bow in obeisance to the Panch Parmeshti. We bow in obeisance to the Aryantas, the Siddhas, and the Sadhus. But we realize that we have to do it on our own. We will have to take the shelter of our own soul and work on ourselves and attain liberation on our own. We follow their precepts, we follow their teachings. We try to walk in their footsteps, but we will have to do the walking ourselves. They can't walk for us. Till the time you have not attained Samyak Darshan, focus on the four external Sharans, the Arihantas, the Siddhas, the Sadhus, the Sadhvijis, and the Dharma. But once you're attaining Samyak Darshan, focus on the inner self. By all means, the deepest reverence and regard and respect to the Tirthankars, to the Aryantas, the Siddhas, the Acharyas, Upadhyas, and Sadhus. But you focus on the self. You've got to focus on the self, on your Atma, because you have to make your own Atma as a Shuddha. No one else. You know, when you fly on a plane, they say the oxygen mask is going to drop in case of emergency. First fix your own, then fix your neighbors. So first attain Samyak Darshan yourself. Then think of helping others. This brings us to the third bhava, Sansar bhava, transmigration. What is Sansar? It's this world we live in, Sansar, where Sansarti, where we are crawling. Have you seen a snake crawl on the ground? So we are all crawling on this earth. That's why it's called sansara. It's called wandering aimlessly, directionlessly. I said earlier that for 1 gram of happiness, you get a ton of sorrow. I was wrong. For 1 gram of happiness, you get countless millions of tons of sorrow. You get anant misery, 1 iota of happiness. That is samsara. These are not good numbers. I wouldn't bet on getting happiness in samsara because the numbers go against it. When you know that samsara is so full of misery and sorrow, why are you so focused on samsara? All of us, when I say you, it means me as well. All of us. When we know that samsara is full of misery and sorrow and disappointments and agony and anguish, why are we so focused on it? Why is it that we cannot think beyond samsara? Our entire focus should be on giving up samsara, on not being bound by samsara. Let's not say giving up, let's say not being bound by samsara. I must not be bound by samsara. Why should I be bound? If I have to live in samsara, I will deal with it in the most detached manner possible. But I should not be bound by it. Who I am and what I am is beyond samsara. My soul is capable of transcending the entire universe. It's capable of attaining liberation. So why should my soul be bound by this tiny limitation of samsara? So what is it? How do we end up binding samsara? There are several causes that perpetuate our existence in samsara. The primary culprit, the number one cause, the leader and pleader, the master of all causes is mithyatva, delusion, false belief, false understanding of reality. Mithyatva is the greatest cause of transmigration. We have to work on mithyatva. And as long as we remain in mithyatva, we shall never, ever attain the truth. We shall never, ever attain freedom from worldly bondages. We shall never, ever finish off this worldly existence and attain moksha. Now, mithyatva is strengthened, by what? By the 4 passions of anger, avarice, artifice, arrogance. Koho mano maya loho. It is strengthened by anger, by arrogance, maya, by artifice, and by avarice, greed. These 4 things strengthen our mithyatva. Our sensual desires, our indulgence, and our deep, unfulfilled and unfulfillable desire to attain more sensual happiness. Bad enough that we want it, that we keep experiencing it, and we look for more and more and more. That's what ties you. That's what binds you. This quest for more and more sensual fulfillment is binding you deeper and deeper in the quagmire of samsara. And as long as you're in mithyatva, you spend most of your time in Nigodha. You come out only for 2000 sagarupams, which is a very short time in the eternal span of time. And in that 2000 sagarupam also, if you're bound by mithyatva, you will not attain anything of spiritual significance. So you spend the largest amount of time in Mithya. You spend an eternity in Nigod, in absolute, complete sorrow and misery. You don't wish to do that. You'll have to focus on getting rid of Mithya. Without Samyak Darshan, you will stay in a state of Mithyatva, which can go on endlessly for an eternity. Now, all the desires that we have, they lead to Trishna, the unquenchable thirst for worldly happiness. And even when you attain a little bit of worldly happiness, it generates an extremely strong desire to attain even more worldly happiness. And that's what is harming you the most. Money, especially money. When you get money, you're so bound and so attached to money, nothing will make you part from that money. Then one who's giving you that profit, you start loving that person. And you start hating the person who's causing you a loss, who's trying to take that money away from you. And then you start resorting to artifice and greed to increase your profits. And the more profits you gain, the more arrogant you become. So, you cannot save yourself from the four passions. The more wealth you're getting, the more you're developing arrogance and anger and pride and deception, because you want to gain more and more, so then you start resorting to cheating people. And you get angry at people whom you think are going to take it away from. So all four kashayas are getting increased. So you are winding yourself deeper and deeper into samsara. Other karmas that you have bound make you like and dislike things very intensely. The more likes and dislikes you have, the more manifestations you're creating for your future. You like something intensely, you will be reborn getting that. You dislike it very intensely, you will be reborn as that person. You will be reborn in hell or back on earth to perpetuate your dislike of that person. If I hate a certain person today and I continue to hate him, I will be reborn, he will be reborn, I will find him once again fighting with him. There'll never be an end to these fights. So if you hate someone, please do Michhami Dukram in your heart and move on. Or you will be born again and again and again, and he will be your opponent each time. Don't want to do that? Do your Michhami Dukram in your mind, in your heart, cleanse your soul, do a Pratikraman, and move on. Else, you're stuck with him for an eternity and for many, many lifetimes. Sometimes, the irony is that sometimes you dislike a person very intensely. He might be reborn as your wife, as your son, as your daughter, as you might be born as a child of that person. So imagine you dislike someone and you're stuck with him or stuck with her for the rest of your life, for the rest of your next few existences. Would you want that? Your life will become a living hell, or if you perpetuate these dislikes and hatreds. This is why in this life itself, please practice Maitri Bhav towards all living beings. Please practice them every single day, twice a day, thrice a day, whenever you sit down to meditate, to reflect, to be a particular. practice Maitri with every jeev, especially those jeevs that have angered you the most, that have annoyed you the most. Practice Maitri Bhav with them. Do Michhami Dukadam if you've felt hatred for them, else you'll be stuck forever. The next few lives will be booked facing them, fighting with them, being harassed by them and harassing them, and binding more karmas, therefore perpetuating your existence. Don't do that. Similarly, the more you indulge your senses, the more desire it creates. It's unquenchable. You can never win that battle. You want more and more of the same thing. And this pang, this pain of wanting more, this will keep you in a state of agony and anguish. You're constantly desiring things that you cannot possibly get. I remember reading this somewhere, this beautiful poster, It says, "Hey Gyani, विचार कर, तेरी भोगों की इच्छा कितनी और भोगने की शक्ति कितनी." We may have a lot of desires that we wish to fulfill, but are we even capable of physically enjoying those desires? Do we have the strength to do that? No one. And trust me, the world has enough for everyone's needs, but not enough for everyone's greed. Your body has enough. It does not even have enough to enjoy the pleasures you're seeking that you have already. It does not have the bandwidth or the capacity to enjoy the pleasures that you seek in your mind and in your heart. You don't have the capacity to enjoy them. So why are you running after something that you cannot keep, that you cannot maintain, that you cannot enjoy? For what? You see people, it's almost like they have a contest these days, the super rich people. One person left behind 10,000 crore rupees for his children and, his family members. Someone else has left 20,000 crores. My God, I don't even know how many zeros there are. But he's gone. This man has left 20,000 crores for his family and he's died. He is bound to karma. And how, even his family, how will they even spend 20,000 crore rupees? This man is bound karmas, he's done mayachari, he's bound sins, and he will suffer. And the people he left the money behind, they will enjoy it, use that money largely to perpetuate more sins, to bind more pap karmas. So it's a lose-lose situation for everyone. We're all stuck in this cycle of transmigration since time immemorial, since the beginning of time. That is why we are in samsara. But it's not impossible to get rid of the circle. It's not impossible to transcend this. There is the marg shown by the Tirthas. You attain Samyak Darshan and you walk on that marg. You walk on that marg and you attain Samyak Darshan. Simple. Otherwise, you keep being born and reborn. Now, initially when I lost my parents, I used to be very unhappy and miserable. I would cry. I've done all that. But now when I look back, I think to myself, I've had a wonderful mother, a wonderful father, wonderful parents. I don't want to have more parents now. I don't want to be reborn again. I'm done. How many in this eternity of existence, how many lives have we lived? In each life, we had a father and a mother, grandparents on two sides. We had sisters, brothers, siblings, cousins, spouse, children. If I look at all the people around me at some time, perhaps all of them were either my brother or my sister or my mother, or my father, or my wife, or my son. How many more existences do I know? How long and how often? And each of these existences is marked by agony, unfulfilled desires. Why do you want more of them? When we talk of sansar, we talk of desire. I'm sorry. When we talk of sansar, we talk of desire. We talk of our unfulfilled wishes. These, my friend, will come back and bite you. This bucket list of ours is endless, endless. And it ensures that we come back into sansar. It's not much. The sorrow that we have to experience, it's too dear a price, it's too high a price to pay for that very tiny, fleeting moment of pleasure. So we have to first of all work on that bucket list and realize that any worldly happiness that we see is transient, not worth the effort, not worth it. Work on it with your para bhavnas. Contemplate. Don't suppress the desire. You can't quell it by suppression. Work on it with 12 bhavnas, with the asharan bhavna, with the anitya bhavna, impermanence, the lack of shelter. Ask yourself if this pleasure that you seek can give you permanent shelter from sorrow, permanent shelter from death, permanent shelter from illness, permanent shelter from disease. If it cannot, please don't waste your time on it. Why would any of us want to live in a sansar in this world where for one fleeting, tiny nano moment of the delusion of happiness, not even true happiness, it's sukhabhas, the delusion of happiness. Even if for that tiny moment of delusion of happiness, you have to pay for it by spending an endless, enormously, endless, an anantakalam, innumerable length of time in sorrow for that one tiny moment of delusory happiness. Say no. It's not a favorable situation. Say no. But we don't realize that that's what we are doing. When I say, oh, I'll do dharma tomorrow, I need to enjoy my pleasures now, I need to enjoy my bliss now. My worldly pleasures I have to enjoy. Boss, you're paying too high a price for it. Not worth it. And because we have not understood this, because we have not understood this, we keep suffering. We keep manifesting ourselves on earth, and we keep experiencing the same misery again and again, ad infinitum. There's no end to this misery. If we don't wish to suffer this misery, have compassion on ourselves. My Guruji Jayesh Bhai says, Bhai, apne upar daya karo. So have compassion on yourself. Don't force yourself to experience this misery time and again. Practice the anitya bhavana. Practice the asharan bhavana. Reflect on it. You will realize that worldly pursuits are all transient. They will not give you true happiness. Whatever worldly success you will find is through your punya. So focus on spiritual upliftment. Focus on eternal happiness and have compassion on yourself. Otherwise, you remain stuck in transmigration. As Jains, we go to temples and this very standard picture, beautiful, a very eloquent picture that all of us see in the temple, especially on those glass frames of the windows. It's the picture of a man stuck on a tree. He is hanging onto the tree with the most slender rope. He's hanging on with two ropes. One rope is black, represents night. The other rope is white. It represents day. He's hanging on to those ropes, stuck from a tree, and beneath him is a well full of man-eating crocodiles. He knows that if he loses grip on those ropes, he will fall in the well and die. The irony is that each of those two ropes is being eaten up by rats. They're gobbling it. And there's a sword suspended from the same tree. And that sword has some honey stuck to the sharp edge. So this man is stuck, suspended over that well full of man-eating crocodiles, and he's suspended on those two ropes which are being eaten up by the rats. But he's so fascinated with that honey on the tip of the sword, he's licking that honey. He can't give up licking that honey, despite the fact that the sword is sharp and his tongue is bleeding. He continues to lick that honey. There are two sadhus who are passing by and they talk to him, they address him, "Hello, swing away, move away from that tree, or you will die. You're suspended there, use your legs, lead, run away from that place, get away." In that desire to lick the honey from the sword, you're hurting yourself, and the two ropes of night and day are being eaten up by the rats. And when the ropes disappear, you will fall in that well full of man-eating crocodiles. You will die. You will most certainly die. You're hurting yourself. That elusive happiness you seek of tasting honey is causing your own tongue to bleed. You're injuring yourself. You're harming yourself. Get away from this. And yet the man is so fascinated by the honey. He's so captivated by it. He can't get away from it. That's how we are. That honey, that honey is the worldly happiness that we see. And the sword is the sorrows that we face on a daily basis. The sorrows, disappointments, agonies, frustrations that we face on a daily basis, but we refuse to understand. And as time passes by, as the days go by, we're growing older, less capable of practicing dharma. The wise monks are there telling us, we have the Tirthankar's Vani, we have the Tirthankar's teachings, telling us to get away from this, to get away from this trap of worldly happiness. But we refuse to listen. Therefore, we are stuck in transmigration. The Parishanas are a time to reflect on this, to understand where we are and where it will lead us. If we don't use this opportunity now, when will this time come back? Because the time that you lose will never come back. Every waking moment is precious. There's so much to do. So focus on the soul. Primarily on the soul. Focus on the self. Know yourself and be yourself. That's the most important thing on earth. More important than any professional degree, than any professional education, than anything else. Focus on the self. Know yourself. Realize yourself. That is the path to happiness. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer. If not, I will summarize and we'll move tomorrow. Are there any questions? There are no questions? Wonderful. It means I'm doing my job correctly. It means I've managed to explain things correctly. I should therefore summarize. We have the 12 bhavnas that are helping us understand. Is there a question? I can't hear you clearly. Okay, fine. So I will summarize and close. We are here in Sansar because of our own karmas. We have bound karmas, and unless we get rid of those karmas, we shall never leave Sansar. The first thing that we need to do is to get rid of the mithyat, the false understanding that is binding us most strongly to Sansar. So work on your mithyatva, work on getting rid of your karmas. That's the only way to get rid of Sansar, to transcend Sansar, and to attain the happiness of moksha. To work on mithyatva, you have to work on attaining Samyak Darshan. Samyak Darshan can only be attained when we reach the stage of no complaints and no desires. When you realize that this world runs on its own, your domain is very limited, you stop complaining about other things. And you will reach the stage of no complaints. When you realize that all worldly happiness is illusive, there's nothing in your hands, it's all an illusion, a very short-term, transient illusion, then you stop chasing after it. And you reach the stage of no desire. When you're in the stage of no complaint and no desire, Samyak Darshan will happen. It will happen. So all we do is reach the stage and make sure we are in the stage of no complaint and no desire. Therefore, we work on ourselves with the 4 bhavnas. We apply the 4 bhavnas to everyone else. Maitri, Pramod, Karuna, Madhyastha, to others. And for ourselves, we apply the 12 bhavnas. Each of these bhavnas is worth contemplating on in a very honest and frank manner. You must read it, understand it, and reflect on it. Merely reading, merely regurgitating it, merely reciting it will not help. You have to reflect on it. This is a pointer for your growth, for self-realization. You work on it, contemplate on it. Ask yourself, where am I going wrong? If the first bhavna is, anitya ki bhavna, then am I realizing this in my day-to-day dealings, or am I not realizing this? Do I forget it when I get to the office and I think that this world is permanent? Asharan ki bhav, the impermanence. There is no shelter on this earth. Do I realize this? Or do I forget this when I work? Dharma is for every single day of my existence. It's not for one day or half an hour or 10 minutes. It's not something you practice when you go to the temple or the upashraya or the derasar. It's something you practice 24/7, 365. If we can practice this 24, 365, then we will attain the results that we seek. If we cannot practice this 24/7, 365, then we will not attain the results that we want. Your profession is a side project. Your spiritual well-being is your main project. Focus on the main project, focus on the self, focus on your soul. When you do that, using the 12 bhavanas and the 4 bhavanas, Samyak Darshan will come to you. Jai Jinesh.
Thank you, Manish bhai, for your kind words. We still have 2 more days to go. We will connect again by tomorrow on the same time. Thank you, Manish bhai.